My name is Elena Rodriguez, and what happened at my sister's vineyard wedding still makes headlines in the Bay Area business community. Picture this: 180 guests surrounded by Napa Valley grapevines, golden hour sunlight filtering through string lights, and my mother's hand connecting with my face so hard that my pearl earring flew into the rosemary bushes. The reason? I refused to hand over the keys to my $2.3 million Lake Tahoe estate right there during the toast. The property I'd bought with my own money after closing the biggest deal of my career. The sanctuary I'd built entirely alone. But here's what nobody expected. When the founder of Meridian Ventures walked through that vineyard gate 30 minutes later, my mother's scream echoed across the valley. The man who entered wasn't just any venture capitalist. He controlled 45% of my father's restaurant empire and held the note on a $500,000 loan. And he had something very specific to say about what he'd just witnessed on an Instagram live stream that already had 50,000 viewers. Before we dive into this story, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. Let me rewind to 2 hours before the slap, when I thought I was just attending my little sister's perfect wedding. I arrived at Vista Ridge Vineyard at 9 a.m, 4 hours before the ceremony. The venue looked like something from a fairy tale. White roses climbing weathered wood arbors, Edison bulbs strung between ancient oak trees, and tables draped in cream linen with gold-rimmed glassware catching the morning sun. I'd contributed $60,000 to make this day happen for Isabel, though nobody would ever mention that part. Elena, finally. My mother Rosa appeared in a flowing champagne dress, her former ballerina posture perfect as always. She looked me up and down with that familiar expression of disappointment. That suit. Couldn't you have chosen something more graceful? You look like you're heading to a pitch meeting, not your sister's wedding. I smoothed down my emerald silk pantsuit. Elegant, appropriate, and yes, something I'd wear when closing deals with CEOs. Good morning to you too, Mom. Isabel looks absolutely ethereal in her gown, she continued, not even acknowledging my greeting. Like a true bride should look. You should see how she glows in the sunlight. The comparison wasn't new. For 32 years, I'd been the daughter who was too aggressive, too independent, too masculine in her choices. Isabel was the influencer darling, the creative soul, the daughter who fit perfectly into my mother's vision of femininity. Elena, can you check the seating chart? Dad called out from the main table. But don't reorganize everything like you always do. The wedding planner knows what she's doing. I bit my tongue. The seating arrangement was a disaster. Divorced couples placed together, business competitors at the same table, my father's problematic uncle seated next to the bride's feminist aunt. But pointing that out would just make me the difficult one. Again. What they didn't know, what I'd never told them, was that I wasn't just some account manager at a tech company. I was director of strategic partnerships at Meridian Ventures, managing our entire Latin American portfolio. I'd built relationships with founders across 12 countries. My bonus last year alone could have paid for this entire wedding twice over. But in this family, that achievement would somehow become another failing. Too ambitious, too focused on money, too much like the son they never had. Family comes first, Elena, Dad said, appearing beside me as I adjusted a crooked place card. Victor Rodriguez, owner of Sabor Latino restaurant chain, still wore his reading glasses on his head like a crown. You'll understand that when you have your own family. If you ever settle down, that is. The jab was subtle but clear. At 32, my unmarried status was apparently a bigger failure than any professional success could overcome. "Victor, leave her alone," Aunt Carmen said, though her tone suggested amusement rather than defense. Not everyone can be as lucky as Isabel, finding a man willing to support her dreams so young. Support her dreams. As if Isabel's Instagram interior design business wasn't funded entirely by our parents' credit cards. Around us, relatives whispered their own assessments. Still no ring on Elena's finger. All that time traveling for work, you'd think she'd have met someone. Poor Rosa. At least she has Isabel giving her grandchildren soon. My cousin Diego smirked from across the patio. "Hey, Elena, maybe if you spent less time in boardrooms and more time on dating apps, you wouldn't be here solo." The laughter rippled through our relatives. I wanted to tell them about the venture capitalist I dated last year who couldn't handle me earning 3 times his salary. I wanted to mention that being single was a choice, not a consolation prize. But what was the point? "She's just very particular," Mom explained to anyone listening, her voice carrying across the vineyard. "Always has been. Too picky for her own good." I straightened another place card, my hands steady despite the familiar sting of their dismissal. They had no idea who I really was. And maybe that was for the best. What they didn't see was the red flags already appearing in their perfect day. The vineyard smelled like jasmine and old wood. Scents that should have been comforting, but instead reminded me of every family gathering where I'd been found wanting. I remembered being 7 years old, watching Isabel take her first ballet class while I sat in the studio corner with a library book. Mom had enrolled us both, but I'd lasted exactly 3 sessions before refusing to go back. "Why can't you be graceful like your sister?" she'd asked, voice tight with frustration. Because I wanted to read about business pioneers, not twirl in pink tutus. By high school, the divide had deepened. Isabel was homecoming court, drama club star, the girl everyone wanted to be friends with. I was debate team captain, coding club president, the girl who spent lunch in the computer lab planning her escape route out of our small town dynamics. "Your sister has such a gift for bringing people together," Dad would say at dinner, while my debate tournament trophies gathered dust on the shelf. "She knows what matters: relationships, family, community." The unspoken message was clear. I didn't. College was my first taste of freedom. Stanford scholarship, business major, internships that turned into job offers from companies my parents had never heard of. I'd call home excited about landing a position at a startup, and Mom would sigh. "That's nice, dear. Isabel just got featured in the campus magazine for her volunteer work." After graduation, I moved to San Francisco, shared apartment in the Mission, 70-hour work weeks, living on cold pizza and ambition. Those first 5 years were brutal. Colleagues who dismissed my ideas in meetings, bosses who called me aggressive when male co-workers doing the same thing were called assertive. But I survived. More than that, I thrived. The turning point came when I closed the Costa Rica deal, bringing 5 sustainable luxury resorts into Meridian's portfolio. The commission alone was more than my father made in a year. I'd stood in James Nakamura's office, watching him review the contracts, and felt something shift inside me. Elena, he'd said, looking up with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. This is exceptional work. You just made this firm $8 million in potential returns. That's when I knew I wanted the Lake Tahoe estate. Not an apartment, not a condo. The 4.2-acre property with private dock, infinity pool, and floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over crystal blue water and pine-covered mountains. The realtor had laughed when I'd asked for a showing. This is a $3 million property. Perhaps I can show you something more appropriate for a young professional? I'd bought it for $2.3 million cash offer, closing in 30 days. The day I got the keys, I'd stood on that deck watching sunset paint the lake in shades of gold and amber, and I'd cried. Not sad tears. Victorious ones. This place was mine, built by my intelligence, my negotiations, my refusal to shrink myself to fit their expectations. Every beam, every window, every inch of polished hardwood floor represented a piece of freedom I'd fought for. I'd sent my parents a photo, just the exterior, nothing too revealing. Very nice, Elena, Dad had replied. Must be a rental? Those lakefront timeshares are popular now? Mom hadn't responded at all. Isabel had texted, Cute, is that an Airbnb you're staying at? I'd deleted the family chat and never mentioned the estate again. Let them think what they wanted. The truth was mine to keep. Standing in that vineyard now, smelling roses and lies, I thought about my sanctuary waiting for me. The place where I was enough, just as I was. I had no idea they were about to try taking it from me. The ceremony itself was beautiful, I'll admit that. Isabel looked stunning in her lace gown, walking down the grass aisle between rows of white chairs as a string quartet played. Brian, her groom, actually teared up when he saw her. Maybe their love was real. Maybe that was what made everything that followed even more tragic. During the cocktail hour, I nursed a glass of Pinot Noir and made small talk with distant relatives. That's when I started noticing the looks. Mom and Dad kept glancing at each other with these little nods, like they were confirming something. Isabel kept giggling with her bridesmaids, shooting looks in my direction. Elena, darling. Aunt Carmen cornered me by the charcuterie table. I heard you have a lovely place up at Tahoe? I stiffened. I do? Isabel was just telling me how perfect it would be for her and Brian. You know, for their design business. Such a beautiful backdrop for Instagram content. I'm sure there are many beautiful properties available for rent, I said carefully. Oh, but family helping family, that's what matters. She patted my arm. Your parents must be so proud that you're in a position to help your little sister start her life. I excused myself, but the comments kept coming. Uncle Roberto at the bar. Heard you might be giving Isabel a wedding present to remember. Cousin Maria by the photo booth. So generous of you to share your success with family. They all knew something I didn't. I found Dad near the wine barrels, checking his phone. His face was flushed, not just from the heat. Dad, what's going on? What do you mean? But he wouldn't meet my eyes. Everyone keeps mentioning my Tahoe property. Why? He cleared his throat. Elena, we were hoping to talk to you after dinner about being generous to your sister. She's starting a new chapter, and you have so much already. Cold dread pooled in my stomach. My property isn't up for discussion. Don't be dramatic. It's just a house. It's my house that I bought with my money, which you wouldn't have if we hadn't raised you, educated you, given you every opportunity. You gave me nothing. I said, keeping my voice low but firm. I got a partial scholarship to Stanford. I worked 3 jobs to cover the rest. Every single thing I own, I earned. His face darkened. That attitude right there is why your mother worries about you? So cold, so transactional? Family isn't about keeping score. Then why are you asking me to give away something worth over $2 million? Because it's the right thing to do. His voice rose, drawing attention from nearby guests. Your sister is getting married. She needs support, not a selfish older sister who cares more about property than people. I care about not being manipulated. We're not manipulating anyone. We're asking you to be part of this family. The threat was implicit. Give up the estate or prove you don't belong. I walked away before I said something I'd regret. Found a quiet corner near the vineyard's edge where I could see the valley below. My phone buzzed. Text from my assistant Marissa. Boss, are you okay? Your mom's Instagram story is concerning. I opened Instagram. Rosa's story showed her with Isabel, both of them glowing. The caption, so blessed to have daughters who support each other. Big announcement coming tonight. Family first. Sisters forever. The comments were already flooding in. Can't wait to hear the news. You raised such generous girls. Family goals. They'd already announced it, before even asking me. They'd told the world I was giving Isabel my estate, betting I'd be too embarrassed to refuse publicly. My hands shook as I texted James Nakamura. Need to talk. It's urgent. His response was immediate. Call me. I stepped further into the vineyard, away from the party sounds, and dialed. Elena, what's wrong? I explained everything. The ambush announcement, the Instagram story, the pressure from every direction. James was silent for a long moment. They're trying to coerce you into transferring corporate assets. What? The Tahoe property was part of your executive compensation package, remember? We structured it that way for tax purposes. It's not just your personal property, it's tied to your position at Meridian. I'd forgotten. The complex financial arrangements James had insisted on, saying they'd protect me long term. Which means, he continued, if they force you to transfer it under duress, they're not just hurting you. They're interfering with company assets. Elena, that property has a protection clause. Did you read the full purchase agreement? Not every detail. Section 12.4. Any attempt to coerce transfer of ownership triggers company intervention rights. I can activate that clause if needed. James, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Nobody manipulates my executives, family, or otherwise. If this gets ugly, I've got your back. It's already ugly. Then let's make sure you're protected. I'm in Napa for a wine auction anyway. What's the venue address? I gave it to him, not quite believing what was happening. Stay strong, Elena. Don't agree to anything. I'll be there in 45 minutes. The call ended just as the dinner bell rang, calling guests to their tables. I had no idea how much uglier things were about to get. Dinner was a 4-course affair served at long communal tables under string lights. I'd been seated at table 7, far from the family table, between Aunt Carmen and a second cousin I hadn't seen since childhood. Strategic placement to keep me isolated. The speeches started during dessert. Brian's father spoke first, a sweet tribute to young love. His mother shared childhood stories about Brian that made everyone laugh. The maid of honor gave a tearful toast about Isabel's loyalty and kindness. Then Dad stood up, tapping his champagne glass with a knife. The distinctive ping, ping, ping made my stomach clench. "Before we continue celebrating," he began, his voice amplified by the wireless microphone, "Rosa and I want to give Isabel and Brian something special." The crowd hushed. Sunset painted the sky in shades of peach and lavender behind him. "As you all know, family means everything to us. There's nothing we wouldn't do for our daughter's happiness. Daughters, plural." But his eyes were fixed on Isabel at the bride's table. "That's why we're thrilled to announce that Elena has graciously agreed to give Isabel and Brian her Lake Tahoe estate as a wedding gift." The crowd erupted in applause and gasps. Camera flashes went off. Isabel pressed her manicured hands to her chest in practiced surprise, though I could see the triumphant gleam in her eyes. She'd known. Of course she'd known. "Oh my God, Elena!" Isabel grabbed the microphone from Dad. "Are you serious? The entire estate?" Every eye in the vineyard turned to me. 180 guests, countless phone cameras, all focused on my face. I sat frozen, wine glass halfway to my lips. They'd done it. Orchestrated the perfect trap. Public setting, emotional moment, witnesses everywhere. Refusing would make me the villain of Isabel's perfect day. "Elena, come up here," Dad called out, waving me forward. "Let's have the whole family together for this special moment." The applause continued, building pressure. I heard fragments of conversation. "How generous?" "That's true sisterly love." "I'm crying. This is so beautiful." I set down my wine glass and stood slowly. The applause died as I made my way to the front, my heels sinking slightly into the grass with each step. "This wasn't discussed with me," I said clearly, my voice carrying across the suddenly quiet vineyard. Dad's smile flickered. "Your estate, sweetheart, for Isabel and Brian." "This conversation never happened." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Mom grabbed the microphone from Dad, her smile razor sharp. "Don't ruin your sister's day with dramatics," she said into the mic, ensuring everyone heard. "It's a wedding gift from the family." "It's my property," I stated simply, "and I haven't agreed to anything." The whispers grew louder. I heard fragments. "What's happening?" "Is she refusing?" "On her sister's wedding day?" Isabel's eyes welled with perfectly timed tears. "Elena, I thought you'd want me to be happy. You're my sister." "Your happiness doesn't require my home, Isabel." "It's just property," Dad boomed. "You can buy another one." "Then you buy her one?" Gasps echoed across the vineyard. Someone at table 3 actually dropped their dessert fork with a clatter. The wedding photographer kept shooting, his camera creating a rapid-fire clicking sound. Brian's Instagram famous cousin had her phone up, live streaming everything. The little red dot in the corner of her screen blinked steadily. "Elena, please," Brian interjected, playing mediator. "We'd take such good care of it. Isabel's already planned the whole renovation for her design portfolio." "I'm sure she has. But the estate isn't available." Mom's face had turned an alarming shade of red that clashed with her champagne dress. "You selfish, ungrateful girl. After everything we've given you." "You've given me nothing but criticism and comparisons," I said, my voice steady despite the hurricane inside me. "And my property is not up for discussion." That's when I saw him. James Nakamura, walking through the vineyard gate in his signature Tom Ford suit, 2 lawyers flanking him with briefcases. My mother saw him too. Her scream could probably be heard in the next county. The real drama was just beginning. "Mr. Nakamura?" Dad's voice cracked, champagne glass trembling in his hand. Why are you here? James walked through the parted crowd like Moses through the Red Sea. Guests scrambled aside, whispers following in his wake. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. Victor, Rosa. James nodded to my parents with cold professionalism. I apologize for interrupting. But I received some concerning information about a property matter involving my company. Your company? Mom's voice climbed an octave. This is a family matter. Private. Nothing streaming live to 50,000 people on Instagram is private, Mrs. Rodriguez. James gestured to Brian's cousin, who quickly lowered her phone but didn't stop recording. I've been watching for the past 20 minutes. The color drained from Dad's face. This has nothing to do with Meridian Ventures. Actually, it has everything to do with us. James pulled out his phone, scrolling with deliberate slowness. The Lake Tahoe estate in question is not simply Elena's personal property. It was transferred to her as part of her executive compensation package. Corporate asset, corporate protections. One of the lawyers, a sharp-eyed woman in a navy pantsuit, stepped forward and placed a leather folder on the gift table. The purchase agreement contains specific clauses regarding third-party interference and coercion. Attempting to force Ms. Rodriguez to transfer ownership activates our intervention rights. Nobody's forcing anything, Dad sputtered. We were just asking. You made a public announcement without her consent. The second lawyer interjected. You created social pressure designed to manipulate her into compliance. That's textbook coercion. Isabel had gone very still at the bride's table, her tears forgotten. Brian looked like he wanted to disappear into the vineyard soil. This is insane, Mom hissed. She's our daughter. We have a right. You have no rights to her property. James's voice cut through the vineyard with surgical precision. What you do have, Victor, is a business relationship with me. One that's looking increasingly complicated. Dad's face went from red to ashen in seconds. What are you talking about? I own 45% of Sabre Latino Restaurant Group. Did you forget that detail? James let the words hang in the air. I'm also the one who extended you a $500,000 loan last year to open your San Jose, Mountain View, and Palo Alto locations. The crowd's collective intake of breath was audible. I also hold the note on that loan, Victor, with a clause about moral turpitude and conduct unbecoming of business partners. James pulled out another document. Page 32. Would you like me to read it aloud? You wouldn't. But Dad's voice had lost all its authority. I would absolutely call the loan if I believe my business partner is engaging in behavior that reflects poorly on our joint ventures. And publicly attempting to steal from your daughter? James looked around at the stunned guests. That reflects very poorly indeed. Aunt Carmen had her phone out, filming. So did Uncle Roberto. At least 20 guests were recording now. Whatever happened next would be replayed endlessly. Additionally, the female lawyer continued, we've documented several interesting financial irregularities. Your restaurant group has been reporting Elena as an investor in multiple filings, using her name and professional reputation to secure vendor contracts and media coverage, without her knowledge or consent. I stared at Dad. What? It's just, we thought you work in venture capital, so having your name associated... He couldn't finish the sentence. You've been using my professional reputation to benefit your business, while simultaneously treating me like I'm worthless? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. For how long? The lawyer flipped through papers. Approximately 4 years. Since you made director. Multiple press releases mentioned strategic partnership with Elena Rodriguez of Meridian Ventures. Vendor contracts reference your connection to their business. It's given them credibility they wouldn't otherwise have. That's fraud, James said flatly. Misrepresentation of professional relationships. Elena, you could sue them for damages to your reputation. I would never, I started. I know you wouldn't, James interrupted gently. But they used you anyway, while criticizing everything about who you are. Mom's perfectly composed facade was cracking. Mascara had started running down her cheeks, though I suspected it was from rage rather than sadness. This is a wedding, she said, voice shaking. You're ruining your sister's wedding, Elena. How can you be so cruel? I'm not doing anything, I said quietly. I'm just refusing to be manipulated. Manipulated? Isabel finally found her voice. I'm your sister. I thought you loved me. I do love you, but love doesn't mean I owe you a $2 million property. It's not about the money, Isabel shrieked. It's about support, about being there for family. Where was family when I was working 80-hour weeks to build my career? When I was the first one in our family to go to Stanford? When I bought that estate and nobody even congratulated me? My voice remained steady. But something inside was breaking. I've been invisible to this family, unless you needed something. Money, connections, apparently my professional reputation. The silence that followed was deafening. James pulled out his phone. I have the Instagram live recording saved. I also have testimonies from 12 guests who witnessed the entire exchange. The slap hasn't happened yet, but I imagine it's coming soon based on Mrs. Rodriguez's body language. He said it so casually that it took a moment to register. Mom's hand was already rising. Don't, James said, his voice dropping to a deadly quiet. Whatever you're thinking, don't. Because if you assault Elena in front of me and 2 lawyers, I won't just call your husband's loan. I'll make sure you face criminal charges. Mom's hand froze midair, but the rage in her eyes was absolutely terrifying. 48 hours, James announced to the entire vineyard. Victor, Rosa, you have 48 hours to issue a public apology to Elena and retract your false announcement about the estate. You will also cease using her name in any business capacity. Or what? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. Or I call the loan, all of it, due immediately, and I guarantee you won't find another lender willing to touch you after what happened here goes viral. Mom's hand finally dropped, but her next words proved she'd learned nothing. You can't do this, Mom said, her voice rising to a shriek that scattered birds from nearby trees. This is family. You're outsiders. This has nothing to do with you. Mrs. Rodriguez, the female lawyer said calmly. Everything you're saying is being recorded by at least 30 different devices. I'd suggest choosing your next words carefully. But Mom was past caring, past reason. She turned on me, abandoning all pretense of maternal concern. You've always been like this, she spat, closing the distance between us. Cold, selfish, too smart for your own good. You couldn't just be normal, could you? Couldn't just be a good daughter. I tried to be, I said, and hated how my voice cracked. For 32 years, I tried. Not hard enough. Look at your sister. Sweet, kind, actually cares about people instead of just money and career, and proving everyone wrong all the time. Rosa, stop. Dad tried to interject, but she whirled on him. Don't you dare! You're just as bad, letting her get away with this behavior. We should have been stricter. Should have forced her to understand what family means. What family means? Something broke open inside me. I gave you $60,000 for this wedding. I used my connections to get Isabel's design work featured in San Francisco magazine. I've sent money every time you called with an emergency. I've shown up to every holiday, every birthday, every event, knowing I'd be compared to Isabel and found wanting. What exactly haven't I done? You won't give your sister your house, Mom screamed. That's all we asked. One thing. One generous gesture to prove you actually care about this family. You didn't ask, James interjected. You ambushed her with a public announcement, betting she'd be too afraid of social judgment to refuse. She's our daughter. We raised her. You raised her to believe she was never enough, the female lawyer said quietly. I've been listening to your family's comments all evening. The comparisons, the criticism, the dismissal of her achievements. This isn't love, it's abuse. How dare you? Mom started. I dare because I'm watching it happen in real time, the lawyer continued, and because I grew up in a family just like this. The successful daughter who could never do right because she didn't fit the mold. I know exactly what Ms. Rodriguez has been dealing with. Isabel was crying now, real tears mixing with the fake ones. This is my wedding day, my special day, and you're ruining it, Elena. You're always ruining everything. How am I ruining anything? I came here, I was polite. I stayed quiet while everyone criticized me. You exist, Isabel screamed. You exist and you're successful, and everyone always wonders why I'm not more like you, and I hate it. I hate feeling like the failure because I didn't go to Stanford or work in venture capital or buy some stupid estate. The truth of it hung in the vineyard air like morning fog. So this was never about needing the property, I said slowly. It was about taking something from me, about making me smaller so you could feel bigger. That's not... Isabel started, but she couldn't finish. Izzy, think about what you're saying, Brian whispered to his bride, but she pulled away from him. I'm tired of being the lesser sister, Isabel said, her voice dropping to something raw and honest. The pretty one, the creative one, but never the successful one. Do you know what it's like to have every aunt and uncle ask when I'm going to be as accomplished as Elena? To have Dad mention your deals at every family dinner? To watch Mom's face light up when she talks about your career, even though she pretends to disapprove? She lights up. I couldn't keep the disbelief from my voice. To other people, to her friends, her bridge club, everyone. My daughter Elena works with James Nakamura. My daughter Elena closed an $8 million deal. But to you, to your face, she tears you down because... Isabel's voice broke. Because she doesn't know how else to handle having a daughter she can't control. Mom had gone very still, very pale. Rosa, James said quietly, is this true? She... Mom couldn't form words. For the first time in my life, I saw my mother at a loss. You brag about me to strangers while treating me like a disappointment at home? I felt like the ground was shifting under my feet. You don't understand what it's like, Mom finally managed. Having a daughter who doesn't need you, who never needed me. You came out of the womb independent, Elena? Do you know how that feels for a mother? To be unnecessary? So you made sure I felt unnecessary to you? I stared at this woman who'd raised me, seeing her clearly for maybe the first time. Because you couldn't handle that I didn't need your approval? That's a very insightful analysis, Elena, James said softly, and it changes nothing about the property situation. Dad had been silent through all of this, but now he stepped forward. His face had aged 10 years in the past hour. The loan, he said hoarsely. If you call it, we lose everything. The new locations, probably the original restaurants too. 20 years of work, gone. Then issue the apology, James replied. Retract your false announcement. Leave Elena's property and her professional reputation alone. It's simple. It's not simple, Dad exploded. Don't you understand? We already told everyone. Our friends, our family, half of Isabel's Instagram followers. We told the media. There's a feature coming out next week in the lifestyle section about generous family gestures. We've committed publicly. So uncommit, James said. Tell the truth, that you made an error, that you spoke without authorization, that the property is not actually available. We'll be humiliated, Mom whispered. The entire community will know we lied. You did lie, I pointed out. This is just facing the consequences. Mom's eyes snapped to mine, and in them I saw something I'd never seen before. Pure, undiluted hatred. You really are going to let him destroy our business, she said. Your father's life work. You're going to stand there and watch it all burn because you care more about a house than your own family. I care about not being manipulated. You care about revenge. Mom's voice pitched higher. This is revenge because you never felt pretty enough, feminine enough, good enough. Well, guess what? You weren't. You weren't the daughter I dreamed of having. The slap came faster than I could process. One moment, Mom was screaming. The next, her hand connected with my left cheek with such force that my head snapped sideways. My pearl earring, the one I'd worn for every major presentation, my good luck charm, flew off, arcing through the air and landing somewhere in the rosemary bushes. Complete, absolute silence. 180 guests, frozen. James's lawyers already had their phones out, recording. 30 other phones captured the moment from different angles, and Mom just stood there, hand still raised, breathing hard, looking at me like I was a stranger she despised. I touched my cheek. It was already burning, swelling slightly. But I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't break. I just looked at my mother and said very quietly, There it is, the truth of what you've always wanted to do. Then I turned and walked away. I didn't run, didn't rush. Just walked with the same measured pace I used, leaving boardrooms after closing deals. Behind me, the vineyard erupted into chaos. Voices rising, chairs scraping, someone sobbing. But I kept walking toward the parking lot. My phone was already in my hand, pulling up my Uber app, when James appeared beside me. Elena, wait, my driver's here. Let me take you home. I can get myself. I know you can, but you shouldn't have to. His voice was gentle in a way I'd never heard from him. Please, let me help. I nodded, too tired to argue. The adrenaline was starting to wear off, leaving me shaky and cold despite the warm evening. In the back of James's town car, with the vineyard disappearing behind us, I finally let myself feel it. Not the slap, that was just pain, physical and temporary. But the words. You weren't the daughter I dreamed of having. She meant it, I said quietly. All these years, I thought maybe if I was successful enough, accomplished enough, she'd finally be proud. but she actually hates who I am. Her loss, James said. And Elena? What happened back there? What your mother said? What she did? That's legally actionable assault. Battery, actually. In front of over 100 witnesses. I'm not pressing charges against my own mother. I know, but I needed you to know you could. He pulled out his tablet, showing me a document. However, I am exercising my rights as a stakeholder in your father's business. Emergency board meeting, Monday morning. The other investors saw the live stream. They're already calling for Victor's removal as CEO. I stared at the screen. You're going to destroy their business. No, they destroyed it themselves. I'm just protecting my investment and my executive. He closed the tablet. Victor has been mismanaging funds for 18 months, using company money for personal expenses, including your sister's elaborate lifestyle. The Tahoe estate ambush was just the final straw that made me look deeper. How deep? Deep enough to recommend dissolving the partnership and restructuring under new leadership. Your father can keep 2 locations, the original restaurants. The rest will be sold to cover debts and bad investments. That'll destroy him. That'll hold him accountable. James's voice was firm. Elena, I've watched you build incredible things over the past 6 years. I've seen you work harder than anyone in that office. And tonight, I watched your family try to tear you down to build themselves up. That ends now. By the time we reached my Lake Tahoe estate an hour later, my phone had exploded with notifications. The Instagram Live had been viewed over 200,000 times. The slap was everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, even making local news sites. Family wedding turns violent after daughter refuses to give up $2 million estate. Tech executive assaulted by mother at sister's wedding. Venture capitalist intervenes in viral wedding drama. My assistant Marissa had texted, "Boss, you're trending. Also, HR wants to make sure you're okay and has resources available if you need them." 3 of Dad's biggest clients had already sent messages to James. Victor, we need to discuss our contract after what we witnessed tonight. This behavior is unacceptable. Thompson Hotels. I'm pulling my account from Sabor Latino effective immediately. I don't do business with people who assault their children. Chen Foods Distribution. My wife saw the live stream and insists we terminate our catering contract. I'm sorry, but family matters. Williams Tech Campus. By Monday morning, Dad had lost 8 contracts totaling $1.2 million in annual revenue. The expansion was dead. The new locations would have to close within months. James's emergency board meeting lasted 4 hours. When it was over, Victor Rodriguez was no longer CEO of Sabor Latino. He retained ownership of the original 2 restaurants in San Jose, the ones he'd built before ambition and entitlement corrupted him. The rest was liquidated to cover debts I hadn't known existed. Isabel's marriage to Brian lasted exactly 5 months. The counseling Brian's family insisted on revealed what everyone suspected. Isabel had expected to be supported, elevated, provided for. She'd never planned to build anything herself. Brian's family was old money that believed in earning your own way despite the trust funds. They found Isabel's entitlement distasteful. The divorce was quiet but thorough. Isabel texted me once. "I hope you're happy. You destroyed my marriage, Mom and Dad's business, everything?" I replied. I stood up for myself. Everything else was their choice. She blocked me after that. The apology came exactly 46 hours after the deadline James had set. It wasn't what he'd demanded. It was barely functional. I apologize for my behavior at the recent family event. The announcement about the property was made in error and without authorization. I take full responsibility. Victor Rodriguez. Mom never apologized. Instead, she posted a rambling Facebook essay about ungrateful children in the age of narcissism and career women who forget where they came from. It was shared 14,000 times, mostly with comments like, "Tell me you're a toxic parent without telling me you're a toxic parent." Her bridge club apparently asked her to take a break from meetings after that. The most unexpected consequence came from Meridian Ventures itself. The board, impressed by how I'd handled extreme pressure while protecting company assets, offered me a promotion. Senior VP of Global Partnerships. The raise was substantial. The stock options even more so. Enough to buy another estate if I wanted, but I didn't need another property. The one I had was perfect, a sanctuary I'd built and defended. I donated my signing bonus to the National Domestic Violence Hotline and a women's business scholarship fund. It felt appropriate. The extended family fractured into predictable camps. Some sided with my parents, sending me messages about how family should forgive and everyone makes mistakes. Others reached out privately, from Aunt Carmen. "Your mother is my sister, but she was wrong. I'm proud of you for standing your ground." From Cousin Diego. "I'm sorry for what I said at the wedding. I didn't understand the full situation. You're actually pretty incredible." From Uncle Roberto. "I saw how they treated you over the years and said nothing. That was cowardly. You deserved better from all of us." But the most meaningful message came from someone I didn't expect. Brian. "Elena, I owe you an apology. I knew Isabel wanted your estate. I didn't know your parents were planning to ambush you like that. I should have stopped it. Your mother hitting you was assault, and I should have said something then. I was a coward. I'm sorry. Also, Isabel and I are divorcing. I'm starting to understand that her family's dysfunction runs deeper than I realized. I hope you're doing okay. You deserved better from all of us." At least someone in that family had developed a conscience. I changed every lock on my estate. Building security received photos of my parents and Isabel with explicit instructions. Do not allow these individuals on the property under any circumstances. James sent flowers the next day. Orchids, elegant and resilient. The card read, "For the executive who knows her worth. JN." My team at Meridian became my chosen family. We celebrated wins together, supported each other through challenges, and never once did anyone demand I sacrifice my success for their comfort. 3 months after the wedding, I stood on my estate's deck watching sunset paint Lake Tahoe in shades of amber and rose. The same view that had made me cry the day I bought this place. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. "Elena?" Dad's voice, older somehow. "I know I have no right to call. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, really sorry. Not the lawyer-written apology. This one's mine." I said nothing, waiting. I let your mother's issues become our issues. I let her competition with you poison how I saw you. You were never the problem, Elena. You were always exactly who you should be. And I punished you for it because it made your mother uncomfortable. "Is this the part where you ask for money?" I asked quietly. "No. God, no. This is me finally going to therapy and realizing what we did to you, what we took from you that we can never give back." "Time," I said. "You took time. Years where I could have had parents who celebrated me instead of diminished me." "I know, and I'm sorry." The apology hung between us like morning mist over the lake. I'm glad you're getting help, Dad. I really am, but I'm not ready to have you back in my life yet. Maybe not ever. I understand. His voice cracked. Your mother won't ever apologize, you know. She can't see what she did wrong. I know. But Elena, I'm proud of you. I should have said it 1,000 times before. You're remarkable. Everything you've built, everything you are, remarkable. I ended the call and stood there for a long time, watching the sun sink behind the mountains. The words felt good to hear, but they couldn't undo 32 years of damage. 6 months after the wedding, I received a package at my office. No return address, but the handwriting was familiar. Isabel's looping script. Inside was a leather journal and a note. Elena, I'm in therapy now. Brian's family made it a condition of finalizing the divorce settlement. I'm learning things about myself I don't like very much. My therapist suggested I write you a letter, but I'm not ready for that yet. So I'm sending you this instead. It's blank pages. For your story, the one you never got to tell because we were always talking over you. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve it. But I'm sorry for my part in making you feel like you had to earn the right to exist in our family. You never did. You were always enough, exactly as you were. We just couldn't see it. Izzy. I put the journal on my shelf between the Forbes issue featuring my work and the photo of James and me at the Global Ventures Conference. Blank pages, full of possibility. Maybe someday I'd fill them. Maybe not. The choice was mine. Here's what I learned from that nightmare vineyard wedding. Blood doesn't make you family. Respect does. Love is action, not obligation. My parents loved the idea of me, their daughter, their property, their resource. They never loved the actual person I became. Your success isn't something you owe to people who never supported your journey. I spent 32 years trying to earn approval from people who were fundamentally incapable of giving it. Not because I was flawed, but because they were. The most powerful thing you can say to toxic family is, no. Not maybe, not let me think about it, not, you're making this difficult, just no. Boundaries without explanation, refusal without justification. Sometimes the cost of family peace is your self-respect, and that price is too high. My Lake Tahoe estate remains mine. Every morning, I watch sunrise through those floor-to-ceiling windows, coffee in hand, grateful for the peace I fought to protect. It's not just property. It's proof that I chose myself when everyone expected me to choose them. It's evidence that being a good daughter doesn't mean being a doormat. It's a sanctuary I built with my intelligence, my work, and my refusal to shrink. The property's value has increased to $2.7 million. I could sell it tomorrow and buy something bigger, grander, but I won't. Because it's not about the money or the square footage or the view. It's about knowing I have a place in this world that's entirely mine, that nobody can take, that I don't have to apologize for owning. If you're struggling with family who demand more than they give, know that your boundaries matter. Your no is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting yourself. Your success is yours. You didn't steal it from your siblings. You didn't take opportunities from your parents. You earned it, and you deserve to keep it. Your peace is worth more than their approval. The temporary discomfort of setting boundaries is nothing compared to the lifelong damage of erasing yourself to make others comfortable. You don't have to tolerate abuse, physical or emotional, just because you share DNA. being slapped at a wedding, being publicly manipulated, being used for clout while being privately diminished? None of that is acceptable, regardless of who's doing it. And listen, you're allowed to grieve the family you wish you had while protecting yourself from the family you actually have. Both things can be true. The price of my freedom was high. I lost my birth family. But what I gained was invaluable. Self-respect, genuine relationships, chosen family who celebrate rather than tolerate me, and a life built entirely on my terms. James told me something that still stays with me. The people who deserve you will never ask you to prove it. He was right. What boundaries do you need to set today? Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever had to choose between family approval and self-respect, know that you're not alone. The hardest boundaries are often the most necessary. Comment, "Boundaries matter," if you believe in protecting yourself from toxic family dynamics. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to choose yourself. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for more stories about standing your ground and building the life you deserve. I'd love to know, are you Team Elena for standing my ground? Or do you think I should have just given up the estate for family peace? Let me know in the comments below. Remember, your peace is non-negotiable. Your success is yours, and you are enough exactly as you are.